This week's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Comixology. Are you tired of your favorite movies getting pushed back again and again and again and being stuck inside and not being able to do anything or go see anything fun? Check out Comixology.com. Read all the stories that all of these movies are based on and get in the know. Comixology.com. Sign up for a free Comixology Unlimited trial and you can read everything. You can read The Boys. You can read Lock and Key. You can read Batman. You can read whatever you want. Visit infamouspodcast.com/Comixology to sign up today. Hey, welcome back to the Infamous Podcast. This is Brian.
And this is Daryl.
And Daryl, today we celebrate beginnings and endings.
A cornucopia of emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. All right, so we are, first off, I want to apologize for my voice. I don't have COVID. I'm pretty sure I have bronchitis again, like I get every year at this time for everyone who's been listening for a long time. So, yeah, Daryl's going to talk a whole lot more than I do this week. Anyway, yeah, so this week we have the season 5 premiere of The Expanse on Amazon Prime, which dropped on Wednesday. And then we have the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian, which dropped today, which is December 18th and December 16th for The Expanse, respectively. So, yeah, no news bites. We're just going to talk about this stuff because there's so much to unpack. And then, oh, sorry. And then I was going to say, then we'll do episodes 2 and 3 of The Expanse midweek before. You know, so that we're going to cover everything because The Expanse is going back to this. So they released the first 3 and then they're going back to a weekly schedule.
And speaking of that, just a little PSA. Just because you don't like a review schedule for a show, don't review bomb the show. Come on. Let's go, people. Be smart.
Who's review bombing?
I don't know.
Oh, they're review bombing The Expanse for being weekly?
Yes. Yeah, kind of like they did with The Boys.
See, I like the way they're doing it.
Yeah,
it makes me happy. It gives me something to look forward to on Tuesday nights because it came out at 9:00 on Tuesday night, like The Boys did on Thursday nights.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I had to, it was funny when I sent you that message. I had just picked up my Penn Station for dinner, and I'm just kind of going through. I was like, you know what? Let me check Amazon Prime while I'm walking to the car, and I see it, and I was like, yes, I need to text Brian now.
I was watching IRL, and I was like, I watched a little bit more after that. I was like, you know what, screw it. I can watch this tomorrow.
Was The Expanse? It was like whispering in your ear.
It was like, Holden was like, Brian, come watch me.
You have okay. That's a little weird.
Actually, it was Amos saying, watch me or I'll kill you.
You know how much damage I can do to you if you don't watch me right now?
Exactly. All right. Quick question though. Like what do you get from Penn Station?
What did I get?
What's your typical order?
I usually get the pizza sub with fries.
Really?
And either a lemonade or the sweet tea. This time I actually went with just the straight up Philly cheesesteak.
Nice. I like cheesesteak, just cheese, mayonnaise, and teriyaki, and then obviously like fries. And then if I do a drink, I get half sweet tea, half lemonade.
Little Arnold, is that Arnold Palmer?
I think that's an Arnold Palmer, but I just ask for half sweet tea, half lemonade. So
that's actually, yeah, I've never actually thought about doing that there.
Yeah, because their lemonade, both their tea and their lemonade is really good. So.
Oh yeah, I got a gallon or a half gallon of their lemonade. So.
Oh yeah. Yup. All right, so let's start with The Expanse. Like, let's go with beginnings, and then because I feel like we have a lot more to unpack with Mandalorian.
Oh yeah.
So, wow, what a great first episode! I was telling you before we started, it stuck pretty close to the book.
Right.
Like in a really good way, and it was a good episode. It set the table for everything. It moved the pieces of, I'll call them the power pieces of the Rocinante crew around the board, setting up the rest of the season. And I can see, so it's 10 episodes. They're doing 10. this season.
Okay.
So I can see where I kind of see where they're gonna go, especially after the second 2 episodes. But the first episode, you kind of see the direction that they're gonna go in line with the book.
Yes. And they do a little bit like they bring it looks like they're going to bring in some of Amos's short story as well.
Yeah, the churn.
Yeah. But like one of the things I always say about Supernatural, rip to that show after 15 years, but Supernatural did such a great job with season finales. What the Expanse does, it does such well. First of all, the episode cliffhangers that it usually gives us, or it's given us over the years, is always good. But they do such a good job resetting the universe, and kind of like you said, putting the pieces where they need to be. And I like the little time jumps they do. Like, so this one was started, I think, 170 something days, almost 6 months after we last saw Marco.
Like 100. I think it's at 173 or something weird like that. So yeah.
So I really like that because it's kind of like a palate cleanser, and it gives you a good idea of okay. Even though we left off here, it gives you a moment to ramp up, and that's why I like this episode. It's like you said, it is sticking close to the books, but also it gives us a pretty clear picture of the character arcs, at least the first part of the character arcs for all our Rossi crew.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things I really like about the Expanse in general, and then this episode kind of typifies that ability to restart and say, okay, audience, this is where we left off. This is where we're going.
Yeah. No, it was cool. It was, we got a couple. See, I felt like they shared a little too much of this episode on YouTube. As much as I enjoyed the scene with Avasarala and Amos on Luna, like, I wish I had not watched that on YouTube first and had seen it here, because it is such a cool scene.
Yeah, and I don't know why I watched it, because I didn't do that last year with kind of the clips. Because I think I usually don't watch clips of shows anymore before especially if they're going to premiere in like a week or two.
Yeah.
Now, if it was something like maybe a month and a half out to kind of like whet my appetite for it, I might watch it. But yeah, if it's I don't know why I did that. Because I usually don't do that.
Yeah. So, I don't know. So the book that this one is based off is called Nemesis Games. This is definitely the most action-packed book, I think, of all of them, just because of the tragedy that happens, without spoiling too much for people who haven't read the books. I will say I did really I loved Alex in the Razorback. I wanted to say Razor Crest. In the Razorback, and they're like, "All right, Razor Crest, that's enough." And he's like, "Just showing you how it's done." And then I love the snarkiness of the Martians. He's like, "It's been a while since you've been dust side. Good thing you didn't bring the Tashi. We wouldn't have let you land." It's like, oh, dude, like, that's still like that. They're still so butthurt about the legitimate salvage of the Tashi. Now the Rocinante.
Yes, remember, legitimate
salvage. And I love it when Bobbie throws that line back at him about the Razorback.
Yeah.
Which that's not in this episode. That's in episode 2, I think. But
right.
But yeah. So it was really good. I think we're gonna see a theme with Avasarala, though, of her offering people drinks and them not drinking them.
Yes.
Because it happened multiple times in this episode, and it happened again a couple episodes down the line. But no, the start of this one was great, because we got to see Philip in action, and kind of what a right little bastard he is with that science station ship on Venus. And that was really, really cool.
Yeah, it was. And yeah, like you said, he's a right bastard. And just like Marco, in the sense of, the actor playing Marco and his actions just make me despise him, even though I just love watching him talk, even though I can't stand what he's saying. Philip has that same I had that same reaction with Philip. Like, he, once he had the crew of that science lab killed, it's like, dude, you gotta pay the price for that.
Right? Like, so Jasai, I guess that's how you say his name, Jasai. Jasai. Just try to say Owens. Right. Let's just call him Mr. Owens, who plays Philip. Like, he's a relatively young actor. He hasn't been in a ton of stuff that I saw on his IMDb when I was looking things up, but man, he's got like the charisma thing. Like, they picked they picked a great like actor who looks between Dominic Tipper and Keon Alexander, who plays Marcos. He absolutely could be their kid.
Yeah, I remember seeing that last year when they showed, when they were, before I deleted my Twitter and was actually following them on Twitter. I remember seeing pictures of him thinking, I think it was, before he showed up in the finale last year, thinking, man, this kid, yeah, he could definitely be, from their DNA. And yeah, he exhibits that same type of confidence that Marco has.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say from so far, it seems like he's a little bit less, and I'm just talking about this episode, like Marco, like at the end of this episode, when you see Marco's eyes, it comes across as like, nothing's really there from a human standpoint.
Right. He's almost an alien at this point.
Right. But I think there is still, Philip has not gone, completely over to the dark side, preview. But yeah, still, after killing those scientists, I just really it's going to be tough to root for him to come back.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be really hard for him to come back.
Yeah. And, one of the things I wrote down about this episode, it was all about revisiting the past for, three of our main characters.
Mm-hmm.
While in a way, Holden did too.
Yeah.
We'll get into that, his confrontation with Fred about the protomolecule and such. But it was about revisiting the past and, some things you can't fix. And Bobbie had a good line about that. It's when she was talking to Alex, but or everybody, all four of our peeps, especially the three that are going off world or off station, are literally going into the past to kind of rectify mistakes they've made. And I thought that was a very, that was the overriding theme of, this episode, which happily titled Exodus.
Yeah. So I thought it was weird that it was called Exodus, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense. I think the cool thing with Holden was bringing Monica back, Monica Stewart, right, played by Anna Hopkins. Like when she was shooting the documentary on the Rossi before before Amos shoved him out the airlock in the quiet place, whatever. Like the chemistry of the two of them together was really good too, because it's very adversarial, and that hasn't changed. And it was great too watching them interact in the bar when she's like, yeah, we're off the record. Yeah, she's still recording everything. But then also knowing her arc in the next two episodes, which I'm not going to spoil today. It was just really, really cool. And I loved it when he was like, yeah, this place is known for the ramen he was eating. And he's like, it's the best this side of series. And when he gets up and leaves, she thinks about it for a second, and then she takes it and she eats it. And she's like, yeah.
I love that just little comedic moment right there where she's just like, damn, he won't talk to me.
It was just this tiny bit of hesitation. It's like, nice.
Yeah. And I it was good to see her back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had her last season with the
right.
Or not last season, season before. So yeah, having her back was really, really good. It's
very important that she was back, because she kind of kicked off, Holden, getting back into it. Let's just say.
Yep. And I liked having Michael Urbe as Admiral Delgado, who he was on the unit with Wes Chatham,
which, by the way,
which is an excellent show.
I just started rewatching that the other day.
So good. It's so good.
It's on IMDb for free. So
I think it's on.
Check that out.
If it's not on Prime, it's on Hulu to watch.
Okay.
So
I'll check one of those out.
But I bought it. iTunes had it on sale for like the complete series for like $20 one time, and I just bought it because I like it. The other Jose Zuniga.
Yes.
Zuniga.
Zuniga.
Bull. As Bull, Bull was one of my favorite characters in this book. And Drummer leading up to this had some of like Bull's character traits.
Right.
But now having Bull actually on the show made me really excited. Because he's such a cool, like, no nonsense character who really more than anything is looking out for Fred.
Right.
Who Fred definitely needs people looking out for him right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, right. And he doesn't care that the Rossi and the crew, have basically saved humanity and done this, that, or the other. Like you said, his main priority is Fred. And because I like Zuniga as an actor. I've seen he's been in a lot of different things, over the years, but he really has that no nonsense because when he confronts Naomi and what's her name, Sakai, I think that's how you say it, the new character that you're not a huge fan of, Tycho station engineer.
It's mainly like the baby talk voice that bothers me. I like the character. I think she's gonna be a combination of the character she is in the book and then the coding wonk that Holden hires. So in the book, so we'll see. But no, having Bull was, I think, 100% necessary for this season.
Right. Yeah, so. And I think I just realized I had just read it not too long ago that he was going to be in this because, again, I typically tend to steer away from even like small spoilers for shows I like. I just kind of, from here and there, even though we do the podcast, I don't like to see too much spoilery stuff.
I mean, I still go media dark at blackout on things.
Yeah.
So.
I like that media blackout.
But yeah, no,
yes,
it was really
I think it was cool. A couple weeks ago that I saw that he was in it, or it might have been a month ago, I'm not sure, but it's been recently, and it was good to see him in there because I did like him as a character as well in the books. And and like you said, I know Drummer had some characteristics of Bull, but she wasn't Bull purposefully because she was a mix of several different characters.
Yeah.
And so that we definitely needed him in the show.
Yes.
In this season, I should say.
But and then kind of introducing the side characters to Naomi's quest with Sin and where'd her name go?
Is it Carol?
Carl, yeah. That was great. Sin is played by a guy named Brent Sexton, who is one of those that guy actors. So you might recognize him. He was in Mindhunter for a couple episodes. He was in Justified for a long time. He was on Deadwood, and then he was on this show. It was on NBC, and it was called Life, and it starred Damian Lewis, about a cop who was like framed and thrown in jail. He didn't actually do it, so when he got out, like he sued, and he sued for millions of dollars and to get his detective job back at the LAPD. And so Brent Sexton played his partner Bobbie, and he was great, and so I've really liked him ever since then. So seeing him show up on this was like, oh, nice, and he had the Belter accent down.
Yeah, and it's funny, this season starts off, there is a lot of Belter speak going on in these first few episodes, which it was a nice change, but at the same time it made me have to pay attention because some of their Belter accents were severely Belter.
Yeah. So very Beltolota, if you will. But yeah, no, it was a really good first episode, which was necessary, like I said, to get us on the path. And I think they're making the most of their 10 episodes by getting us off the way they were. I will say, out of the three, Exodus, Churn, and Mother, on IMDb at least, this is the lowest rated at 8.6, whereas the Churn is a 9.1 and Mother is 9.3. So
yeah, this is the only one I've watched twice or multiple times.
mm-hmm.
So
yeah, this is the only one I watched twice too. So
I mean, I'll hold off on that, but I think this might be, again, for this moment, it might be my, and when I say least favorite for an episode, for a show like The Expanse, it doesn't mean it's bad. It's still good, but it just means that the other, episodes are a little bit better.
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm at with this one. It does its job though. Like I said, it's a good restart for the season, for the beginning of the season. It's kind of a checklist of where our characters are, where their minds are at, what their motivations are for the season, or at least their arc in the beginning of the season. And that's what I like about the show overall, and I do like about this episode. And it does a good job introducing us to new characters like Sakai, like the Naris, triumvirate of Philip, Sin, and Carl,
right?
And bringing Monica back, and and Bull as well. We've mentioned him earlier, so it does a good job because it does a lot. It does a lot.
Yep.
It has a lot of characters. These new characters reintroducing us to old characters other than our quartet, or would it be quintet if you count Bobbie?
Yeah, I think we got to go quintet with Bobbie.
Or is it sextet because it's Avasarala too?
But she doesn't ever go back on the Rossi.
Yeah, that's true. So we're just okay.
Yeah, she's not. She's the grandma. She's not the matriarch.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, no, it was a really good episode. It did a good job telling us where everything came from and where everything needed to go, and then who the players were for this season.
Yes.
The highlights were almost all Amos. And he had the scene with Avasarala on Luna, like we talked about. But the even better thing was when he was on the transit ship to Luna. He just stole the whole episode with those two scenes.
With that story, the story he tells, just so casual. And that's the thing I love about Amos and the way Wes Chatham delivers his lines. It's so matter of fact. It's so just laid back,
right?
Despite the promise of violence within them.
Yeah.
I just, it's like, what I found out? I can hold my breath for 2 minutes and do physical with strenuous physical activity. So how much damage do you think I could do to you in 2 minutes before the knockout gas gets to me? Right. And I think that a guy was too dumb to realize the shit he stepped in.
Yeah, but to like kind of like they talk about in the book, but like kind of in general, those kind of people, they don't realize what they've stepped into because they don't know yet just how bad off they are.
You don't know what you don't know, huh?
Right?
Which is, you hear that a lot, and it's actually you're right on that. It's just you don't know until you know, and
and now you know.
Yeah.
Because somebody got stabbed with a toothbrush.
Yeah. Like Crossbone said, purification through pain.
Right. I did like, though, when the police officers were, or the military were he's like, I didn't start it, and they were alive when I left.
That, it's so funny because he sounded like, a kid caught doing something. It's like, number one, I didn't do it. Yeah. I didn't start it. And they were, I love that. I just love how he delivered that line.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But yeah, I think he stole the show because, again, Amos, I love Holden, and we talked about this a few weeks ago. I am absolutely allowed to identify with Holden.
If you say so.
But I love Amos's yeah, he's definitely my favorite character
Yeah.
on the show.
So, yeah. All right. So yeah, I think out of like 5 Rossies, I give this one like a solid 4.
Yeah, I'm right there with you too.
And like when I rank things, it's not compared to anything else. Like there might be a episode I like way more than this one that could still be a 4 later in the season, but for what this one did, I think it's a solid 4 out of 5.
And I think that's really important what you just said, what this one did. That's how I rank stuff. Like I look at it and say, okay, what was this episode trying to do? What was its purpose, its intention? And if it does that well, it could get the same rating as an episode, like you said, that I'd like a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Because it did what it had to do. It's like, you know, when they say in sports, hey, you can only play the teams on your schedule. And that's how I look at, you know, when I rate stuff. I don't want to rate it with, you know, I'm not looking at episode 2 and saying, well, I liked episode 2 better, so I have to give this a lower than a 4. No, it's what it set out to do. Did it accomplish that? And, you know, go from there.
Absolutely.
So I would agree with the 4 out of 5.
Sweet. All right, so let's move on. This is a really, I guess, touching episode of The Mandalorian. In a lot of ways, I think.
Ooh, man.
Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of start. So this was directed by Peyton Reed, who directed the Ant-Man movies and Bring It On, and directed the second episode of season 2, which would have been chapter 10. And that's the one where most people are like, this show is boring. The show is over. I'm done with this show. I am not in that group. I thought it was a kind of cool like horror show.
Yeah.
With that episode, but I did not, and it was written by Jon Favreau. I did not expect this level of action from Peyton Reed, and he's a director who has directed 2 MCU movies.
When I saw his name as the director, I kind of stepped back, because you're absolutely right. Again, I enjoyed episode 2.
Yeah, I was like, "Are you sure?"
Excuse
Credits? Is that right? So and I was like, "Where's the concept art credits?" Oh, by the way, we're gonna spoiler the shit out of this.
Yes. Yes. And
so if you haven't watched, it's Sunday. Why haven't you watched it yet? And if you haven't watched, it's Sunday. You've probably been spoiled because this was spoiled immediately on social media. Immediately.
Yes, it was. And
so.
And it was funny because I woke up, you know, I was in a half slog at 7 a.m. and I see your text about make sure you watch post credits. And I was so half asleep, I didn't even realize what you were talking about. I'm like, what in the heck is he talking about?
Yeah.
So. And then when you said it, I was like, yay.
Yippee. Yeah, I woke up at 5, skipped the gym, watched it. Angel came down. She took Haley to school. I'm like, all right, sit down. Watched it again. So, yes, it was very good. I think,
yes,
as the kids would say. And the most important thing that came out of this episode was we got the return of the hero of Star Wars.
And that is?
That is the one and the only R2-D2.
Yes, absolutely.
So nothing good. Well, one, he's my favorite character. So nothing good has ever happened in Star Wars without R2 being directly involved.
That's pretty.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
So
I don't think you've told me this before, but like just kind of like going over it in my head. Some things have happened in the history of Star Wars.
So, yeah. All right. So this episode opens with the crew of the Slave One now making their way to some random planet. And we see the Gauntlet. Or a Gauntlet, not the Gauntlet. A Gauntlet. Mandalorian fighter hanging out in the parking lot. And, you know, They go in, they see Bo, they see Sasha Banks, whose character is Casca Reeves. And, these Mandalorians cannot help themselves but to just fight each other.
They all are a little bit lippy. And,
they are a mouthy bunch. And what is it? Mike Tyson says there's a lot of people online who talk like they've never been punched in the face. Well, these people talk like they've been punched in the face repeatedly and like getting punched in the face.
Yes,
because Casca and Boba's interaction was hilariously just like badass. And the fact that Sasha took him to the woodshed, like the little bitch boy that Boba Fett is, made perfect sense.
Okay. One, she didn't take him to the woodshed. I knew you would be perfect for a Mandalorian because you're lippy yourself, man.
Yeah, and I've been punched in the face. So
yeah, that's true. I did tell that in one of these workshops I had. I was like, this is why I think everyone should at least be punched in the face once. And some of these people that thankfully I don't work with, they probably looked at me like, what is his problem?
What is wrong with this man?
Yeah, I know. Honestly, I think people should because they would understand violence a little bit more. Most people don't really understand violence.
Yeah. But no, it was a great back and forth. And then Bo-Katan starts laying into Boba about the armor. And she tells him he's a disgrace to the armor, or I forget the exact word she used, but then he says, "This was my father's armor," and she goes, "Don't you mean your donor?" And I like lost it. If I had been drinking something, I would have spit it everywhere.
Which, if you want to get technical, even if it was his father's a donor as well. So, I mean, she meant it as a slight.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. But I love. She's like, "I've heard your voice thousands of times."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, this might be the last one you hear.
This might be the last. That's great. Like, I love Tamura Morrison. He's so good. He's just so good in everything that he does. If you guys really want to see like him in an awesome role, go watch the prequel season of Spartacus, where he's the original Doctore.
Yes.
Because,
I think I need to rewatch that. It's been a while since
I rewatched it not too long ago. It's so good.
Oh, I love Spartacus. I love that show.
Let me rephrase that. Once you get past the first like 3.5 episodes of the first season, then it's so good. They kind of went like full Stephen S. Knight for the first 3 episodes, and So they talk it out. I do like how Bo-Katan was like, if we had shown half this spine, the imps never would have taken Mandalore from us. And then I liked how Boba's like, Mandalore's glass. What do you guys want with Mandalore? Shut up. Leave Mandalore alone. So yeah. Anyway, they come up with a plan to go get Dr. Pershing, the cloner. Another great scene. It shows the dichotomy of the Remnant Empire so well, because you had the pilot who was a believer in the cause, and you had the navigator who was like, I'm not with him.
Yeah,
I'm not with him.
He gets a shot into the back of the head for his trouble.
And did you like how when he went down, he like kind of whimpered like a little girl? He was like, oh. It's like one of those little Antifa soy boys. Anyway, but yeah, so that, I mean, it was that was a great scene too between the pilot and Cara Dune, where he's like, I was on he was like, I was on the Death Star, and she's like, which one? And he's like, blowing up Alderaan was killing a bunch of terrorists. It was all worth it.
He actually mentioned something that we've joked about here and there, like between us, and I know other
well it's a joke from Clerks. It's a joke from Clerks, is what it is. Is the basis of what his statement was. Yeah.
Oh no. And again, I don't know I can't remember if I've seen Clerks or not.
So,
but I've always thought this, like, how many people were on the Death Star when it just got.
So he makes a comment about how millions of people died on between the two Death Stars, and Randall in Clerks makes a really good point that the rebels aren't quite so good because they killed everybody on the 2 Death Stars. And on the second one, it was still under construction. So there were contractors and construction people, and, and then, Dante's like, well, they knew the risks. He's like, they're just trying, and Randall's like, they're just trying to feed their families, man. They're it doesn't matter what they're getting, and they don't need to know what they're getting into. They just are trying to get a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's funny you say that, because last episode showed a different perspective from the stormtroopers when they saved Mayfield and Mando. Yeah. So I kind of like those taking a different point of it, kind of like when we talk about Cobra Kai, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It's given us another side, because there, for the most part, most confrontations have two sides to it.
Oh yeah. So,
and just seeing the other side of it might not change your opinion, but it'll give you more of an appreciation, or give you more food for thought about what the other side is thinking. And again, that's what people don't realize. Just because I understand something doesn't mean I have to agree with it, or in the sense of I can get where you're coming from even if I don't agree with you.
Right. But that did not stop Cara Dune from shooting him in the face.
Closed casket. That's what I thought when that happened to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, his mom's not going to recognize him.
No. Yeah, man. When you're talking to now, and it was also nice to talk about the rebel teardrop for Alderaan.
Yes.
Right. I don't know if I remember seeing that or hearing that, but that was a mark of Alderaanians who survived and were in the rebellion.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So,
and
but
you would definitely know more about that side than I would.
So I thought that was great. And then they have their plan of attack, which they planned in the bar on the back of a napkin. Sorry.
I did like in that scene how Bo-Katan just takes over, in the sense of, because she's the strategist, and she's like, okay, we're doing this. Okay, and Mando's like, what about me? Well, we'll be the bait, and then you sneak in from the back, and
we're the distraction.
Yeah. So I really like that, and again, I love Katie Sack. I've always loved her.
She's so great. She's so great. I'm super excited that they made the figure of her, and that we were both able to pre-order it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so she makes the point with foreshadowing that she's got to take on Gideon.
Yes.
And so we're going to put that in our back pocket, and we'll come back to that. So they jump through hyperspace. There's the Lambda shuttle. They left the gauntlet back on in the bar parking lot. Some space cop's going to come and mark it and try and pull them over for a DUI when they leave later. Because it's been there for so long. But anyway, they're going through hyperspace, and they come out, and Boba pretends to attack them in Slave One, and Boba's in Slave One by himself, and it's Fennec and Casca and Cara Dune and Bo-Katan and Din Djarin in the Lambda shuttle. What happened to Dr. Pershing? Did they just leave him tied up in the belly of Slave One?
Yeah, I don't,
because we never saw him again for the rest of the episode.
No.
I'm like, where did he go? He's a cloner. You might want to keep him around. He could probably grow you extra parts. Oh, you need a new liver? Here, give me some cells. Let me whip one of those up for you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't you think that's a good friend to have? Someone who could clone bits of you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Maybe Fennec wouldn't be part droid if he was around earlier.
Right?
She could have cloned him, and
she could have had that small intestine.
Yeah, a whole new digestive tract.
Here you go. Enjoy the spicy sand.
But also, it was funny because when you see, Bo-Katan and Sasha Banks, what's her name again? Her character?
Casca Reeves, but
Casca Reeves.
Yeah. Her real name is Mercedes Varnado.
But when I saw Bo-Katan and Casca, I'm thinking, where's Axe Woves at, man?
Yeah, well, he wasn't even at the bar with him. I think.
No, he wasn't.
He might be on a program where he wasn't he doesn't go to bars, so he missed out.
He's gonna be like Amos in season 3. Did I miss it?
Yeah, right. He's in a 12 jetpack program.
12 jetpack.
But we'll get to this in a sec. But so they go, and I don't think we've ever seen TIE fighters launched out of the tube Viper style before.
No, I don't believe that was my first thought too.
And that was freaking awesome. Like,
Yes.
I kind of loved it, every second of it. I love TIE fighters. So, but they're like, no, we're coming in for a landing, and they just go right into it. And the one guy was like, hold on, stops everything. It's like, oh, he's the smart guy. Notice he's the first one they killed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like, you kill the smart one first. Like, it's like Mel Gibson in The Patriot, where they, at the beginning of every battle, they kill all the officers.
Yeah.
That's a good movie. That's a really good movie.
Really good movie.
But yeah, so that was a great scene. As they're kind of making their way through the belly of the light cruiser, and then they get to this ramp area that it's just a ramp, but then there's just a force field underneath it, keeping space
Which is
out.
a weird design.
I was like, this is a design error. This is a massive flaw. And you know what it did is it served the purpose of Kara and Frennick, you know, making that stand on the bridge, and then it let Casca and Bo loop up from underneath with the jetpacks and take out the stormtroopers. It was literally that scene that design was literally there just for us to see a cool special effect.
Yes.
100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I did like how the stormtrooper fell into space and how he was falling really fast, and then he went through the force field and just kind of was like slowly floated away. Well, because you have to think, as he was falling, like, he hit the force field, and that stopped his momentum essentially. And so when he came out, actually, he's probably not even moving very much at all. The ship was just moving away from him,
right?
Because space and physics.
But
that was really cool. I really enjoyed that bit of it, and it kind of made the whole, well, we're gonna have a giant hole in the middle of the bottom of the ship, worth it.
I just can't get with some of the design flaws.
So I have seen a little bit of pushback on this scene about how it was kind of like a girl power scene, and how I saw people comparing it to that scene that essentially stopped Endgame dead, with the A-Force stuff.
Yeah.
I did not even register that it was just 4 women going through and kicking ass until the second time through watching it. And because it was so organic.
Okay, yeah. So for me, I would liken this more to the scene in Infinity War with when Black Widow and Okoye come to Wanda's rescue.
Yeah.
Organic.
Sure.
Now, I absolutely noticed it because, again, only because the first thing I saw when in the cantina is, I was like, where's Axe Woves at?
Yeah. I didn't care.
So that's the only reason I noticed it. But it did not take me out of it like Endgame. That scene absolutely took me out of the moment.
It stopped the movie.
It did not.
It kind of ruined the end of the movie.
Yeah. The only thing I was thinking in this, I was like, man, they are badass.
Yeah.
But that's how you do it. It you know, the story itself led up to this in a natural way.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, like, I didn't worry about Axe because I was like, I'd have been more concerned if Casca wouldn't have been there because
absolutely,
of my undying love for Sasha Banks.
Well, other than that, it just seems like she was more kind of more not buddy, but like more of the right hand lady.
Yeah, she is
Bo
Katan's right hand night owl. So
yes.
So that's what they're called, the Night Owls, which is really cool. Yeah. Coincidentally, my friend Rob, his band, which it's just him, but it's called Night Owl, which, you know, always makes me laugh every time I see it. So anyway, so the ladies do their thing. They make their way to the bridge and immediately get there and kill everybody. Just no, like, you know,
savages.
Savages, as Gideon calls them. And so then we get Mando, like, kind of interspersed with this, making his trip to the detention cells, on the detention level. There's no problems. There's no problems here. We're all under control. Just a reactor leak. It was a boring conversation.
How are you?
Anyway. But so he has to neutralize the dark troopers first. And wow, what a cool scene. He
was that
he sure took his time getting there.
Yeah.
It was very much like Terminator. He did not run nearly as much as I thought he should be running.
Yeah. It wasn't even a brisk walk.
No.
He didn't. So,
and honestly, you know what he really could have done, because he actually had it on him this time, is he could have just jetpacked through the hallways, and like nobody would have been able to catch him. Plus, he's in full Beskar, so he's essentially
so what
immune.
If they did?
Yeah. So you go, you stop it, you space them, and you get on with your mission. But that was such a cool scene watching. Like, I thought maybe it was going to really hurt him or kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And that might have been wishful thinking. I don't know. But it was really, it was a really cool thing. I really liked when he lit it on fire.
That's when I thought Terminator.
Because it got mad. And like, I feel like it went against its programming, because it's like you have a superior tactical advantage here. You're stronger and you're immune to anything that he can do to you. Why not just keep punching him in the face until that Beskar helmet folds in on itself, and you crush his head like the mountain did to him? Right? That
is such an apropos comparison. I mean, especially when you talk about the spear.
Wouldn't this have been great to see Din Djarin's head, his lumpy, stupid head, get crushed in like on Game of Thrones? It would have been like completely poetic.
That's not in the script.
I know. Anyway, but no, this was a great thing. Scene. But then the Dark Trooper like tosses him away, and it's like, okay, it's time to take out the spear, dude. The gun doesn't work. The Beskar spear goes through anything. And he makes pretty short work of him, and then he's able to space the remaining Dark Troopers.
Which I have to say, the CG on these Dark Troopers was so well done. Or I don't know if they had somebody in.
No, I think it was. I think it must. I think there was probably some like partly real stuff, mostly CG. Mm-hmm. They looked and acted and walked a lot like the Cylons from BSG.
Yes, they did.
I saw people comparing them to the guard robots on the Black Hole movie from Disney back in the 80s. So
talk about time warp right there.
Yeah. But no, I thought they looked great. I thought it was really cool. And then, he then goes and meets up with, he goes to save Grogu. And at this point, we haven't seen Moff Gideon since the boarding party happened. He walks in, and Gideon's just holding the lightsaber, the dark saber, really close to Grogu's head. How long do you think he was standing there just holding it? Like, he's like, oh my God, is someone going to come save this little bastard or what? Or did he like ignite it as the door was opening?
Yeah, I'd like to think he was just, holding it there, talking to Grogu the whole time.
And did he know that he was going to be able to unlock the door? Or did he expect he was like going to knock and be like, hey, can somebody let me in? I'm just like, these are like legit questions I had when I was watching, and this is not even nitpicking. This is just like weird place where my brain goes.
Yeah, that's kind of like I do the same thing for other things too. For just questions that most people wouldn't think about. Yeah, and it's not nitpicking like, oh man, this is silly, or it is a legitimate question that pops into our weird ass brains.
Correct. That is correct, sir. So he tells Gideon, he's like, look, you can keep your stupid sword. You can actually leave. I just want the kid. I just want Grogu. And, I feel like they really missed an opportunity for him to walk in and go, Grogu? And Grogu go, Roo? I feel like that was a huge missed opportunity to see that one last time. But so Gideon's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, you can take him. I'm just gonna fuck right off.
I'm just going to be over here while you take the kid.
And the second his back's to him, he tries to slice him with the Darksaber. And it's like, he's wearing Beskar. Dude, you people, you just said you know everything. Right?
Yeah.
You told Din, just assume I know everything. So how about you take that sword, you turn it on its side, and you stick him in between where the Beskar armor is.
I know.
Like, he's this tactical genius, but he's just a hack and slash dude. Like, he's a button masher. He was a button masher. That was his fighting style, button mashing.
Yeah. I love that fight though.
The fight was great. It was great.
Yeah.
And again, it took Din way too long to get the spear out.
Yeah. Dude, well, what about? Well, I'm thinking back. This is another question that popped into my head. Like, I know his little whistling. What's that called again? The whistling birds? Or
Whistling birds.
Yeah, those were depleted, but I don't think his flamethrower was.
No, the flamethrower might have been crushed when the Dark Trooper grabbed his arm, because that was the other arm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
Who knows? But anyway, it was an awesome fight.
Yes, and I love you mentioned this earlier when we first started.
That's so beautiful.
Yes. So. The audio cues in this, not just from a soundtrack perspective, but from just the sound effects themselves were great. That ding,
yep.
Ding.
Yeah, and it sounded different than Ahsoka's lightsabers because the Darksaber has a different vibration, and yeah,
I really love the action in this episode, which goes back again to just kind of again thinking about Peyton Reed and what he's done. I really enjoyed the two Ant-Man movies.
Absolutely.
The Ant-Man movie, and I enjoyed the second episode. But this action that he directed in this episode was fantastic.
So they fight it out. Den gets the best of him. Actually disarms him from the Darksaber, and so I think this is why they showed Ahsoka fighting the Magistrate back in the Jedi, because they needed to show that this spear could hold up to anything. The really cool thing was when the Darksaber would be on the spear for a while, watching it get red hot.
I really like that.
And
detail.
It's like, could he eventually cut through it? I wonder. So it was just a thought.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was kind of showing the difference between the Darksaber and a regular lightsaber, or just a cool effect.
Yeah. All right. So then they end up on the bridge. Din walks in with the Darksaber lit up for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was because he's like, here, just go, or I'm going to cut you in half. But he's got Grogu, he's got the Darksaber. He's he walks in, and the look on Bo-Katan / Katie Sackhoff's face was
what happened.
Amazing. She was like,
yes,
all of this was for nothing.
Yeah, and even going back to the scene when Gideon's on the ground and he's like, "You're sparing my life."
Oh yeah,
and he's like, "This ought to be interesting."
This will be interesting, yeah,
because he knows what's going to happen when they get to the bridge.
So, because then he explains what the Darksaber is, right? He gave a history lesson for everybody who hasn't watched Rebels or Clone Wars. So, the Darksaber is the it's kind of like the Elder Wand from Harry Potter. Whoever defeats whoever, they get to keep it, and then it shows that they have the power to rule Mandalore. It doesn't bestow you with any magic powers or anything like that. But so yeah, and so when they walk in and she's like, how'd you get that? He's like, I beat him. And she's like, well, I told you I wanted them. And he's like, well, here, just take it. All right. And so this is the thing that bothers me. This is my biggest nitpick of the entire episode. In Rebels, Sabine Wren finds the Darksaber. Or no, I'm sorry. Sabine Wren is given the Darksaber after Ezra and Kanan find it. They teach her how to use it. She fights Gar Saxon and defeats him with it. Who Gar Saxon has it. And then she just hands it to Bo-Katan. Hands it to her. And Bo-Katan raises it up like she did something. And now she's in charge of Mandalore. Din Djarin doesn't want it. And he's like, here you go. Take it. And she looks like he's handing her a puddle full of cancer to eat.
Yeah. Wow. That's visually spectacular.
Right? Like it is like a puddle of AIDS. Go ahead and eat it. And she's like, no, thank you. So I got to kill you now.
So I've only seen Rebels once, like all the way through.
Yeah.
And I was kind of warring with myself because that's what I thought. I'm thinking, didn't Sabine give her that
Just gave it to
Darksaber?
her.
But I
Just
couldn't.
gave it to her.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if there were details I was forgetting. So I that was in the back of my mind when that whole confrontation happened.
Well, I mean, she is the heir to the Mandalorian throne because her sister Sabine was the prime minister or whatever, president. So, you know, queen. So she actually has like a blood tie. So like, I think if she just took it, like nobody's going to care. You know, they're like, cool. We don't want this Foundling to be in charge of us. He's a cultist. You know, he's a cultist who doesn't even stand by his cult rules anymore.
Yeah, he's broken it twice in 2 episodes.
Yeah, well, I mean, what are we going to do with that? And he's got a lumpy face. So, anyway. So, all right. So, you know, things start to go down. A platoon of dark troopers show up from space.
Because they can fly.
We knew this.
Yeah.
Like, did they expect them to just go out in space and be like, all right, well, I'm at full power. I might as well just shut down now.
Yeah.
Here was my other question.
Float around
Why not? Okay. So, like, I have a one wheel, right? Like, battery maintenance. Like, it's unplugged right now. I'll plug it in at some point next week, charge it up to like 80%, unplug it. Because I can't go ride it in the snow. Why are they letting them charge all the way down?
Yeah.
Like, keep them at like half charge. And I know they're like, oh, well, it's too much power to keep them charged. Great. You charge them up half. You leave it. It gets to a point. You charge it back up so they're always at half. So then when you do need them, it takes half the time to charge them. Not, you know, it takes 30 seconds instead of 4 minutes.
Yes. That's
I found that to be a tactical faux pas.
There's quite a few tactical and logistical design issues, I would say, with the Imperials. Maybe that's why they lost.
So. All right, so the Dark Troopers storm the ship. They're busting through the blast doors, which was a really cool scene, by the way. Although, why were there only 2? You know, you had room for a couple more up there. And why were they only using one hand? Why weren't they not doing like rock'em sock'em?
Oh, they were. They were kind of going back and forth, left, right.
Like
left, right.
I feel like they could have done faster. They probably could have. They could have made short work of that. But then sorry.
I was about to say, I think they kind of liked the anticipation, so they were. Yeah. We don't know how much they think or whatever, but kind of like when you were talking about the one getting mad.
Yeah.
They said,
"Ooh, they're playing with their food. They're kind of like anticipating the kill and enjoying it. I like it.
We're coming. You can't stop us."
So they're there, and then the klaxon, the proximity alarm goes off, and you see this little X-wing just fly right by, and Cara Dune goes, "Great, a single X-wing. We're saved."
Not knowing that you were saved.
Well, yeah, they had no idea. So then that is when things get sequel racy. So I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's Luke Skywalker. He's fucking awesome. This is the Luke Skywalker from the EU. This is peak Luke Skywalker at his prime with skill and power.
Yes.
You know,
he's been Rogue One moment.
He's been running around for exactly. He's been running around the galaxy for like 6 years, getting better at the Force every day. Not worried about the power converters at Tashi Station anymore, and just doing what Jedis do. And he boards this ship and he just cuts through these things literally like butter. But more importantly, it's really cool watching him switch between Yoda's style, his dad's style, and Obi-Wan's style as he's fighting these droids, and then using the push, pull, and crush force powers.
Yes.
And we've only seen the crush powers used twice in Star Wars, and never in the movies. The first time was in Tartakovsky's Clone Wars, when Anakin crushed one of the banking clan guys, and then again at the end of that Clone Wars when Mace Windu crushed General Grievous's insides. That's why he was asthmatic in Episode 3.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, I haven't gotten
and
there.
so when
Like,
he crushes, so that's not the same Clone Wars as the Disney, or it's a cartoon. Well, it was a Cartoon Network one, but it's a different Clone Wars. I'll let you borrow the DVDs if you want to watch them.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, I remember when that.
There's
was
actually
on.
a YouTube channel that has like the whole like 2 hours on there. But I don't have the link. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it was so cool watching him go through and fight. And then he steps out of the mist with the green lightsaber, just looking like a total badass. And he pulls the hood back, and this is when we actually know it's Luke. I mean, you can see the belt buckle. He was in his Return of the Jedi garb. You could see his actual lightsaber, not just a green one. You could see the hilt. And it was the deep fake version. I'm fine with this. Mark Hamill got the screen credit for it. He was the voice, although I feel like they went and got they have the rights to Mark Hamill's likeness for this stuff. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if Mark actually read the lines, or if it was just cut up from audio from previous things.
It honestly felt, and I don't know. And again, I don't know if it was because it was kind of like an issue between his face and the lines being spoken. They just didn't vibe correctly. They didn't line up.
So when he opened his mouth, he didn't have any teeth. When he talked, you never saw any teeth.
Yeah.
And then he didn't blink.
Yeah. And one of the things in watching, especially the second time, because the first time, honestly, I was a little bit just kind of like shell shocked with all the feels going on, watching, Luke at his peak. So the second time I was able to kind of like distance myself and critically watch it. And I really wish they would have shown less of his face. They didn't zoom in, but they showed him too much.
See, and I think they had to. And I here's the thing: this is a TV budget. It's not like a big production budget. This was better than the faces in The Rise of Skywalker. This was not
absolutely.
This was not as good as the faces in Rogue One.
No, it was not.
And I feel like what they did was they took the Battlefront 2 face of Luke and used that as the map for the deepfake.
Yeah, and they absolutely needed to show his face. What I'm saying is, and I don't know, it still would have been as disconcerting to someone like me who watches for stuff like that. So again, some people aren't going to be bothered by it. And when I first watched it, I really wasn't bothered by it either. Yeah. It's just like on a rewatch.
If you look up Max Lloyd Jones, he was the double. He did all the fighting and everything, which was great. But he kind of looks like Mark Hamill, but he's like young looking too. I mean, he's not like Sebastian Stan looking like Mark Hamill, but still. And a lot of people are like, well, why didn't they just use Sebastian Stan? Well, that guy's busy making Winter Soldier and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I get that. I kind of wish they would have recast a little bit. There's just that little bit of me. Of course, having Mark, who we definitely have our issues with Mark as a person, but having Mark back as Luke is in about 4 minutes, 2 minutes of screen time, they went through and they told a better story than we got in 6 to 8 hours of movies.
How sad is that?
It's it just shows. It just shows that when you actually know what Star Wars is, you can make cool shit with Star Wars.
Yeah,
plain and simple. When you hire people who have never watched Star Wars, who have never experienced Star Wars, who decide that they want to make a movie that's going to make half of the people mad, that's when you ruin Star Wars. And then when you don't have a plan for how you're going to tell your story, that's how you ruin Star Wars. That's how you ruin anything. And let me step back. That's how you ruin any IP, not just Star Wars.
Yes.
So I loved it. I loved every second of it. I didn't cry I actually went and watched a bunch of reaction videos, and dudes were straight up crying, and it's awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It definitely got dusty. There were some allergies happening.
Yeah.
But
That's how I was.
I was actually more excited when my boy showed up, and when R2 shows up, and so Luke's telling Din, like, you know, Grogu needs to decide. He needs you to give him permission to come with me, and he gives him the permission. He goes, and Grogu's like, I don't know if I want to go with this guy. He's dressed all in black. He's like, you know, he just killed a bunch of troopers. I just watched him using the Force way better than I can. But then R2 pops up, and he's like, R2's like, what's up, buddy? Oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever, Grogu. What's going on? Where have you been?
Yeah.
And they know each other. They absolutely know each other. Because you know who spent a ton of time at the Jedi Temple? R2-D2.
R2. Yes.
You know who was everybody's go-to if they had a problem to solve or needed something fixed? R2-D2.
Yeah, and so
if someone needed saving, you know who they went to? R2-D2.
Plans for the Death Star? R2-D2.
Working with the lift to get Obi-Wan and Anakin out of General Grievous' ship. R2-D2.
So
fighting off buzz droids so Anakin can land on said ship and kill Count Dooku and save the Emperor. R2-D2.
Getting Luke his lightsaber on Jabba's skiff.
R2-D2.
Man, we're gonna need to make a shirt with all this stuff on it.
Dude, it would have to be like a blanket. Like, there's just so much that he's done. Because you got to go look through like all of Star Wars history, not just the movies, but the shows and the comics. Like, he's badass.
Yeah,
he is the proverbial man.
Yeah. To your point about Luke showing up, there was a geek moment for me. I will say it definitely got dusty when Din Djarin takes his helmet off.
Yeah. That was sweet.
I will say this, and again, I understand why they needed to do it in the previous episode, but if this would have been the first time we saw his helmet since the end of season 1, the season 1 finale.
Yeah.
I think it would have been even a better payoff for me. But again, I understand from a narrative perspective why they end up doing what they did.
Well, they didn't have to do that from a narrative perspective last time. So
no, they really didn't. Now I'm thinking they could have done something else, but I understand too.
Yeah.
I just wish this would have been the first time he would have taken his helmet off since
in front of anybody.
Person.
Yeah, in front of a person.
I wish that would have been even more poignant for me, and it would have hit harder. But I still liked it. And then Grogu's little claws just like touching his face, like, dude, you need to shave.
Do the magic fingers, baby. So they go. Turbo lift closes, fade to black, and then we get a different song from the end, and then no concept art, and then as you go through, it comes up, and we're all of a sudden on Tatooine, and we're looking at Jabba's palace, and then we come inside Jabba's palace, and we find Bib Fortuna is alive.
Yeah, he's been eating a lot of.
He's getting his Jabba on, if you will.
Yes.
Interesting thing. Matthew Wood was playing Bib Fortuna. Matthew Wood was the voice of General Grievous during the Clone Wars. People may not know that. So then Fennec comes through and does what she does and kills she goes medieval and kills every last in the room. She gets
no substitute.
She gets her Marcellus Wallace on. And they come in and Bib Fortuna's like, Boba, you're alive. I didn't know you were alive. Hey, I heard some things. And Boba doesn't even bother with him and just shoots him, dumps him off the throne, sits on Jabba's throne. Fennec sits down drinking some sort of blue alcohol with like a badass. And then it cuts to black and it says The Book of Boba Fett coming December 2021.
That was amazing.
This is like Favreau and Filoni this season did so much. Least of all, they made me actually like Boba Fett. He's not in my favorite character arc or anything like that. I do love the look. I like the black underneath the armor. I like the little skirt thing, the robe. I really liked him in this with the armor over the Tusken Raider robes. I thought that was really cool. But he looked like a badass for sure. But that scene is great. That is just an awesome thing. And I think if it's not the thumbnail, I definitely considered it for the thumbnail for this episode. Because I grabbed the screenshot of it. But yeah, it was really, really cool to see. And I think we're not going to find out what happens with Din Djarin and crew for at least 2 years.
Yeah. So one of the things we talked about, and again, there are a lot of questions of where to go to the Buffy musical. Where do we go from here? It's because they said the Mandalorian was going to be premiering in December of 2021. Correct?
No. She said the next Disney show, the next Star Wars series was going to premiere in 2021. She didn't say The Mandalorian. I went back and listened. I went back and listened. Okay. She said the next Star Wars show will premiere on Christmas of 2021. So 53 weeks.
And they meant like it doesn't have to be new or just like Star Wars, period.
So here's my thought: is it's called the Book of Boba Fett. These have been chapters 1 through 16. So chapters 17 through whatever are going to be the Book of Boba Fett, and then they'll go back. I don't think they're going to do 2 concurrent Mandalorian type series at the same time.
And that's my thought too, is because I was thinking, because I automatically for a few minutes I said, oh, they're doing the Mandalorian and then this one. And then I was like, that doesn't really make sense to me. I don't doing 2 shows like this, like you said, concurrently. I don't think that's the best use of your resources. So
I texted you and I said, the more I think about it, the less I think this will be a spinoff, and it'll be chapters 17 through whatever. This is and then so my question is this a new direction because of Pedro's behavior issues that we talked about? Because I think then we'll go back after T-Bob. We'll go back to the Mandalorian. But we've had this week all these comments coming out from him saying like, oh no, I didn't have any problems. I love wearing the mask. And we got there was so much smoke. There has to be some fire. And they said we're taking the show in a new direction. I don't think Boba Fett was ever meant to be in this season.
When did he first show up? Was that the first episode?
He showed Marshall? Up at the well. See, no, they wanted us to think that was him in the Marshall, and then it ended up being him. But he didn't have the armor. He didn't have his armor. Saving Frenny. But I don't know if they meant Boba to be as big a character as he was this season, and it kind of turned out for the best. Like when Harrison Ford broke his leg on the set of The Force Awakens, they were able to go and kind of make it end a little better, at least than what the original treatment was. So I think this was their contingency plan for if they weren't able to get him back into the fold.
Not a bad contingency plan.
It's really not the way it turned out. It's a very dangerous gambit. But
absolutely.
So here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping the Book of Boba Fett is 6 episodes. And then they do, right off of that, they do the next 8 episodes in The Mandalorian starting in March or whatever.
That's kind of where I'm at too. I don't want them, and I don't think they would have these similar type shows, both airing on on a weekly basis at the same time. It doesn't make sense to me, to be honest.
Right.
So, like I said, it would be a poor use of your resources when you could do what you just said, have a limited series Boba Fett in 6. Well, it's not Boba Fett, but a limited Book of Boba series. Of, 4 to 6 episodes. I kind of like the 6 episodes.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I think 6 is the right amount because he's going to be taking over the criminal underworld again, and so what that does is that sets up him as the the antagonist through some of these other Star Wars Outer Rim shows that they're going to have.
And they were supposed to, do you remember, was it I don't know if it was a couple years ago, they canceled a game that was supposed to kind of go into that underworld. But I think it was Coruscant underworld, but was going to explore the criminal underworld.
Right.
And we saw some of this stuff with the whole criminal aspect from Solo.
Right.
But
so
it'll be interesting to see where they go from here with this. I really hope they do that, though. Just have that limited series and then kick off with the Mandalorian a month or so after that ends.
Yeah. So because Disney needs to have more stuff.
Yes.
Just in general. And I think having those two series run kind of close together makes a little sense. I don't think they need to do like 52 weeks of Star Wars shows, but they should definitely probably do about 30.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I would be fine with that.
I mean, if you do 30 episodes of Star Wars in a year spread across 3 different series a year, that's, a minimum of 5 episodes or 10 episodes a season.
Yes.
So, they do 8 episodes. They could do 3 full seasons of 8 and then a crossover of 4. Crossover of 6, something like that. But yeah, I don't know. That's just my thought. On a whole, this was a great season. This is definitely 5 R2D2s out of 5 R2D2s for this episode.
I absolutely love this season.
This season was great. It told an amazing story.
Yeah, and it was one of those. It seemed like there were more standalones last season, which again I really enjoyed last season. But like you said, the telling the story and ramping, especially the second half of the season, continued to ramp up. And sometimes that's hard to do, where you ramp up the stakes but maintain that same quality, that same sense of urgency. And the second half of this season did that so well. I loved it. And yeah, this is 5 R2 beeps out of 5.
I do kind of feel like some of this season though was like, hey, let's set up the expanded universe.
Absolutely.
But they did that and told a cool story at the same time. So
yes,
thank you to Filoni. Thank you to Favreau. Thank you to Bryce Dallas Howard, Rick Fukuyama, Peyton Reed, Robert Rodriguez, Dave Filoni again. It was
team effort.
It was a team. It absolutely was. And they're doing another Star Wars Gallery series that starts on Christmas. A new one each week. Going behind the scenes for this season too. So.
I need to finish watching the one on season 1. Although I'm really interested in this one though, in season 2 more than season 1.
Dude, you gotta watch the season 1 because like it's so cool how they came about all of this, and then the technology that they used to make this show is literally going to change the movie making industry.
Oh, again, one of the things you said is this doesn't have the budget of a big screen picture, but so much of this looked like it was on a big screen.
Oh yeah,
like there are many movies in Hollywood, many Black Panther, that couldn't compare from a CGI perspective to this series. So they did a fine job with this series, especially this season. So
all right. On that note, my voice is about to give out. So thank you guys for listening. We will be back midweek with an episode for episodes 2 and 3 on The Expanse. And then we'll be back to our normal schedule after that. So thank you guys for listening. See you guys later.
See ya.
The Infamous Podcast is recorded in Kings Mills, Ohio, just north of Cincinnati, with new episodes out every Sunday. You can find more information about the show online at infamouspodcast.com or on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as @InfamousPodcast. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcatching app. If you're enjoying the show, consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, or check out our Patreon at patreon.com/infamouspodcast for our new tiers and rewards. The Infamous Podcast is hosted and produced by me, Brian Tudor, with music provided by Michael Henry from meetmichaelhenry.com. You can find me on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as @BrianTudor. So, whenever you're listening to the show, have a great day, night, evening, weekend, whenever it is, and we'll see you next time. Later.